It's time for the Transformers Cybertron Adventures review for the Wii. Now before I begin, I have to make this statement. I know this is a port of the game Transformers War for Cybertron, but since I've never played that game, this review will probably be different than others, because I will not be comparing the Wii's version to War for Cybertron, so please keep that in mind as you watch this review. Thank you. This is actually the first Transformers game I've ever played. I was never really interested in the cartoon or any other Transformers game, but I really like the movies. So anyway, this game is set on the Transformers' home planet Cybertron. As you start out, you get to choose which side you want to play as, the Autobots or the Decepticons, and if you're not familiar with the Transformers lingo, the good or bad side. Each side has its own story, but both of them surround the main plot, which is the Decepticons are trying to take over Cybertron and the Autobots are trying to stop them. This is a rail shooter. You virtually have no control over where your Transformer moves, as the AI will do it for you. All you need to do is shoot and take cover. Now there are times where the Transformer will transform into its own vehicle, such as a car or jet, and when they do so, you get to control where they maneuver, but you're still on rails as the game will guide you where you need to go next. On foot, you get 4 different weapons to blast your enemies with, which include a Gatling gun, a blaster or cannon, depending on which Transformer you are, a missile launcher, and the sniper rifle. Although these weapons are effective, it was kind of disappointing that all of the Transformers for both sides have the same weapons. It would have been nice if there was a variety. Now, well, there is a variety when it came to the blaster and the cannon. With the cannon, you can charge up a single shot for lots of damage, as opposed to the blaster which can't charge up, but this is the only variety in weapons. When you're in vehicle mode, you get 2 weapons at your disposal, your blaster and missile launcher. These stages were pretty fun, although when you're in a jet, in my opinion, you would just fly too slow. Come on, you're in a jet for crying out loud. Let's see some speed. But no, we have to fly at 30 miles an hour. Well anyway, even though it wasn't too fast, flying was still fun, as was the car stages. This game surprised me at how fun it was. However, there is very little variety in each level. You will constantly be shooting down enemies and taking cover. This game would be so boring if not for the fact that the action rarely stops. It's a repetitive game, but for me, it doesn't become boring so easily because it's very satisfying when you take down a bunch of huge enemies. Graphically, this game is good at best. I thought the models for each Transformer and the animations were pretty good, but for the environments, it was actually 50-50. Some of them didn't look half bad, while with others, you just have to wonder, did the developers quit in the middle of it? The controls were excellent though. It was as simple as point and shoot. The only issue I had with the controls was when you were driving on the road. The turning controls just felt a little too stiff, which could mess you up at times. Everything else though was just fine. There is 2-player co-op mode in this game, but it was kind of disappointing. I was hoping for a second Transformer fighting with you, but all it is that second player gets to shoot extra missiles and lasers at the enemies, as if he or she was behind you. It does help, but the game is already pretty easy, so co-op mode feels more like a fun little extra rather than a main element of the gameplay. Every time you destroy an enemy or certain objects on the field, you will be awarded with experience points, which are tallied up at the end of the level. When you gain enough experience points, you will level up, of course, giving you access to bonus material, which is just artwork. This was pretty disappointing. Artwork? That's what I get for all the crap I just had to endure, such as hundreds of shots of lasers and missiles? I mean, artwork is nice and all, but I was expecting something with a little more value to the gameplay. Another downside was the amount of save points in each level. I found some of them to be too spread apart from each other. Now, even though this game is pretty easy, there were times where it would become pretty challenging, especially around the end of both story modes. Now, a challenge is always welcome in my book, but if you died, sometimes you would have to start from too far back, which is just a pain. There is a challenge mode where it's basically the whole campaign over again, but with certain objectives like a time limit or shooting down a specific amount of certain enemies while driving. You'll be awarded with medals if you complete the tasks, which gives this game more replayability, but the game just doesn't have a lasting appeal that you'll want to come back to complete them. Transformers Cybertron Adventures is a pretty decent game. Graphics are passable, excellent controls, co-op mode adds a nice touch, terrific voice acting and music, good sound effects, and the action rarely stops. However, the downsides were that the repetitiveness of the easy gameplay keeps this from being a great game, and it doesn't help when the graphics are lackluster throughout points in each level, the game itself is pretty short, and there's just very little long-lasting appeal. Now, I did say that I wasn't comparing this version to War for Cybertron, and I'm not, but after reading multiple reviews for that game, I'm gonna have to say you're probably better off playing that version instead of the Wii's. However, if you only have a Wii and you like Transformers and or rail shooters, I think you might have a pretty fun time renting this game. The amount of enjoyment you will get out of this game all depends on what type of gamer you are, and the fact if you aren't comparing it to War for Cybertron. And please remember, this is not a comparison to War for Cybertron, and because of that, I thought this was a pretty good game, and I did have fun with it. This game gets a 3.25 out of 5 with the title of good.